So most people care about three things in life. They care about their health, they care about money, and they care about relationships. Those are the three areas of our lives where we spend the majority of our time focused. And so today I want to talk to you about the 20-20 rule, and I want to tell you a bit of a story that I think will really help you. But first, let's talk about how do people make money? You know, there's a Gallup poll out that says upwards of between 60 and 70% of Americans wish they could start their own business to gain financial independence. And I talk a lot about money and health and relationships. Those are the three areas that I write my books about. But today I want to focus on making money and specifically on starting a business. Now, it's reported that about 8 to 9% of Americans are actually self-employed. So we know if we want to gain financial independence and actually secure our financial futures, stands a good chance that we're going to have to learn how to start a business, especially when so many Americans and just people around the world want to do that. But here is the 20-20 rule that I want to share with you. You think of the concept like this. Would you like to spend 20 years struggling because you don't have the right information on how to start the business of your dreams? Or would you like to spend 20 bucks on a book that could possibly help you absolutely achieve your dreams? So that's the 20-20 rule. Now, I've bought a lot of books in my life, and they've absolutely changed my knowledge, my skill set, and it's given me the information that I needed to create the life I want. And so the 20-20 rule is actually very real. Cut. So where is the first place that we need to start when we are starting a business? It really becomes your relationship with money. I want to share the story of how that can make a profound change in your life when you get very serious about your relationship with money. The first thing I would ask you to do is to actually write a letter to money. Now, at first you're saying, wow, Glenn, that's pretty bizarre. Why would I want to write a letter to money? But I'm actually going to ask you to do that. It's something I talk about in my book, Compound Wealth, and it's a very profound and powerful exercise. And it's the first key towards starting the business of your dreams. Because people have a pretty whacked out view sometimes with money. Their relationship to money can be pretty bizarre. So I want to share the story of a 14-year-old boy. He started out working in his life when he was in junior high. He would get up at 5 a.m. to go work in the school kitchen prior to his school day starting, of course. And then he got his first job at a fast food restaurant at 15. And that didn't last long because he realized working in fast food was not what he wanted. But he knew he wanted to start his own business. He actually started selling and getting a side hustle at the age of 16. But this little boy that I'm talking about had a very troubled background. He came from absolutely nothing. As a 16-year-old, he would drive a Toyota Corolla that was smashed in on the front. It literally, the windshield would get slammed up against the hood because the hood had to be tied down and it would just slam up against the windshield as he was driving along. And his shoes, believe it or not, his topsider shoes, his Sperry topsiders, had to be duct taped. That's how poor this teenager was. But he kept persevering. He didn't quit. And when he was 18, in fact, the day he turned 18, he walked into Bank of America, of all places, and opened up his first business checking account. And from there, he created quite a bit of success for himself. But it came from absolutely nothing. And when he looked back on his life, he wrote a letter to money. And he talked about his journey and his relationship to how he grew up with no money. And when he first made some from starting his business, what that felt like to him. And then, of course, he spent his 20s working for large Fortune 500 companies. And then again, later in his 20s, he became an entrepreneur. So you see, I know something about this boy because that is my story. And in my late 20s, I became an investment banker, and I learned to work with startup companies and advising them on how to raise capital. And this serves as the foundation of my book, Compound Wealth. And the first thing I would tell you, if you're going to really get serious about changing your life and creating the business that you want, it's that you would sit down and write a letter to money. It's actually the first thing we do in chapter 1 is we write a letter. And that letter starts out with your journey in life. But specifically, you'll find when you start writing this letter that you're going to look at periods of your life where you didn't manage money well. Perhaps times when you disrespected money. Maybe there were times in your life where you couldn't stop spending money. You had to keep up with friends. You had to have that nice car or that nice purse or all those fancy clothes or all the latest gadgets because you wanted to feel accepted or you wanted to feel like you were engaged in life. And a lot of us fall victim to that. We can't delay our gratification, so we're constantly spending money. I know Tux doesn't have that problem. If we could all just be cats in life, our lives would be so much simpler. But the challenge to get a hold of your relationship to money is the foundation for starting your business. From going from paycheck to paycheck, from struggling. Maybe you've had a dream for a lot of years. You've wanted to start a business and you've had ideas, but you don't know where to start. And so my book is going to help you actually understand, how do you start your own business? How do you create a product or a service? How do you bring it to the marketplace? How do you get it capitalized? But before you do any of that, you got to find out what your relationship to money is like. Are you able to start a budget? Are you able to be disciplined? Can you just live for your basic needs and delay gratification? What is your view towards investing money? There's so many factors that go into securing our financial futures and becoming financially independent. And it's not only the American dream, but people worldwide. We all want to start a business. We want that sense of independence. We want to be able to have unlimited earnings. But there's so many factors that go into starting a business. And it starts with key number 1, sitting down and writing a letter and talking to money, actually writing a love letter. So imagine money is the person you're in love with. What would you say to money? What would you talk about? What would be your views of it? Do you respect it? Do you get it and then spend it? Are you good at saving it? Are you good at budgeting it? Are you good at planning with it? Or are you pretty reckless? You'll find this will be a watershed moment in your life when you actually sit down and write your letter to money. So I'm Glenn Grant, and I hope that this letter to money will be the first step in your path towards financial independence. It's something I talk about in my book, Compound Wealth. It sounds silly, but I can promise you it is an extremely powerful first step at creating the life that you want.